Okay, so in continuation with our transaction management stuff, let's start looking at what is this automatic versioning thing all about. Okay, so this is because the reason why we need to do this, I think we discussed in the past also once when we were dealing with multi-threading environment and concurrent updates and stuff like that. The idea here is, what if two users try to modify the same data? Okay, so let's see, like that's the context, like if two threads trying to modify and all that, how do we handle it? Okay, so let's see, like overwriting other users. Let's see the use case. System allows multiple users to work with, right? So that's why we design the system. It's not just for one user, we design the system and modify the same database record simultaneously. So whoever updates last wins. If you don't do anything, whoever updates last wins. Previous save is unknowingly lost. So winner never even knew it was there. Okay. So because two people exact same time trying to operate on the same record. Remember our example, like we were trying to modify last name and also the address. So the person who is updating the address don't even know that last name is being modified, and hence we may end up in this situation. Okay, so almost always overlooked by developers. Difficult to reproduce or validate a customer complaint. No record of anything failing, and needs to be proactively thought of, like how to address this. So here is the situation. What we are talking about. User 1 logged in. User 1 retrieves employee record 20 who has a salary of 30K. And user 2, in like 2 seconds, he or some millisecond time, he also pulled in user 2 also retrieves employee record 20 who still has a salary of 30K. At this point of time, like if you see my mouse pointer till here, everything is good. User 1 gives employee 20 a 5K raise, bringing him up to 35K. User 2 is not aware of that. So user 2 gives employee 20 a 10K raise, bringing him to 40K, never knowing that user 1 also issued a raise. So user 1 and user 2 argue later because user 1 says that he had already given employee 20 a raise, and user 2 claims he looked and it wasn't there, so he did it. So these kind of situations may arise. Like I keep repeating this example. I had a problem with a similar problem with IRCTC at some point of time. Like I booked a ticket, I did a refresh of that site, like just a browser refresh. It ended up creating one more ticket. So when I was traveling, I had like two tickets with the same name. I didn't even know that there was another ticket that's been created as well. So these kind of stuff we have to be really, really proactive and think about it. Otherwise, these may cause a lot of problems in production. So you should be always thoroughly thinking about concurrency. What happens if two people try to update at the same time? Ideally, ideally, user one is already updated it. User two is updating the stale data. We should not be updating it. We should throw, it's already been updated. Either you bring in the latest record or you throw it off, right? So preventing overriding by locking records. So we talked about pessimistic locking and optimistic locking. Does anyone of you remember what is pessimistic locking versus optimistic locking? Do you guys remember? Did we talk about it or no?
Yes, we talked about that.
But do you guys remember?
Pessimistic locking, the user locks the rows until he finished updating and reading and updating, and again right updating like that.
Did not quite follow. Can you repeat that one more time?
User locks the rows until he completes his transaction, like reading from the database and then updating that.
How the user can lock a database? Like I'm a user of Amazon.com. How can I lock Amazon.com's database?
Rows, I'm saying.
Or okay, Amazon.com's database row. How can I lock it? It's not the user, it's the thread, the requests that come in, or at the database level, we implement this locking, like a DAO layer, we implement this locking by telling, like, by configuring some stuff, like whether it has to be a pessimistic locking or optimistic locking. It's not the user. User has no. idea what is happening on the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's see that. So you guys have an idea. Let's discuss that in how we can do that in Hibernate. Okay. So don't allow other users to even read the record while you have it checked out. So we are pessimistic, believing someone will change it on us. So that's why we don't want somebody else to deal with it also during the time you are modifying it. Whereas optimistic locking, everyone can access it, and we check to see if it has been updated when we are committing the changes. If it's been changed while a user was working on it, alert them so we can act accordingly. We are optimistic, believing that nobody else will change it, but if it happens, at least we should know about it. So that's the thing. Like as you said, the record is being locked until your operation of update is completed. So nobody else can actually deal with that record or write to that record because we're pessimistic. We don't want anybody to modify it. So we are locking it altogether. But optimistic locking, we believe in us, so we let it leave it. We don't lock it. But when we are updating it, we check. Oh, is it the latest version on the database? I have something, and in this update query, I have something. Are these two like the one I am updating is going on top of the latest record in the database or not? If it is not, alert the thread whichever is updating and say like, oh, please retry or handle it like, okay, fetch the latest record from the database, apply the modifications again, and then put it to database like that. Okay, so that kind of mechanism we are trying to implement, which is called optimistic locking. So how can we do that in Hibernate? Hibernate's optimistic locking will automatically check and see if it has been modified while in your possession. If it has been modified, Hibernate will throw a stale object state exception. That means database in the database they put a column called version column. I think this also we talked about it. Uh, what we do is anytime you modify a record in the database, we increment its version. Say for example, I have an employee record. I pulled out the employee record. I modified his salary and updated in the database. Now the version becomes 2. So now if two users pulled the same employee record 20 at the same time, both of them will have the version ID 20 record, right? Like employee records 20 is version 1 or whatever. And both of them issued a change, right? If one of the thread went in first, updated it. So now the salary of his is 5k raise and version ID is 2. And when the user thread went in, when the user 2 went in second time, it's not updating. Now when it is trying to update it, Hibernate has a mechanism checking the version ID. Oh, the version ID I have is 1, but in the database there is a latest version. So this guy is trying to update the latest version with a older version. So it says like stale object state exception. That means the object state that you have is stale. Stale means old. So please try to fetch the latest one and then re-update. So we have to handle that. The moment it throws a stale object state exception in the DAO layer, you have to catch that stale object state exception, refetch the data from the database, and apply your changes whatever you did and then put it in the database. Okay, but still the problem of second person winning is not solved yet, but at least we know some modification happened to the record. This is one way of handling it, right? Now you are updating a stale data. Either you can do it like how I said, fetching the latest record and applying it, or alert the user, oh, this record has been modified. This is the latest record. Do you still want to continue? This kind of workflow also can be implemented. Are you guys with me so far? Um, are you
Yes.
understand? Are you following?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's the thing. So these are the various ways you can handle a stale object state exception, but Hibernate internally implements this stale object state exception once you configure this version ID thing. Okay, so requires a column to keep track of versions. So dedicated version column, usually a number, can use a timestamp also. Caution: two transactions could occur at the same time. So that's why version ID is better. So what we do when performing the update, version column is automatically included as a part of the where clause. So mm, when you are updating employee salary to this, version ID also will be added to the update statement where ID equals to 1 and version 1. So this way you are making sure you are not updating it unless you are really sure there is a um, real update happening. Like there is really, if there is version 1, then only it gets updated. Otherwise, it will not get updated. So checks the value returned from the JDBC. This is through JDBC, like when performing actual update. Okay. Then hibernates optimistic. How to do that? So decide a versioning strategy. Version column or date. If you know you are actually tracking up to nanoseconds or even further down in the timestamp, you can use it. Otherwise, I prefer version column to be number. Add an attribute to every domain object, like Java class to represent the version. So every Java class will have a new property called version. So no getters and setters required. In fact, application should never programmatically update this column. So we don't even expose to others. It is just for Hibernate. So add a column to every domain object in the database table to represent the version. So every database table will have a column called version and must be placed immediately after the identifier property. That means immediately after the ID, you can put it like this. Account account ID is the primary key, and you can put a version. Okay. And overwriting other users. So same use case as we discussed before. User 1 who has a salary of 30K with version 1. User 2 retrieves employee 20 who still has a salary of 30K with version 1. User 1 gives employee a 5K raise, bringing him up to 35K. And now the version is incremented to 2. So user 2 gives employee 20 a 30K raise, bringing him up to 40K and trying to save. Hibernate doesn't find a record for employee 20 with version 1. So a stale state exception is thrown. So application informs the user the object had been changed, and so he tries again. Seeing that user 1 had already made an update, user 1 may not be, user 2 again may not be doing it. User 1 and user 2 argue later because they need not argue. Or if we don't show it, if we just swallow the exception of stale state exception, stale object state exception, then user 1 and user 2 may argue. Otherwise, they need not, right? So this is one. So this is about optimistic locking, right? Disabling optimistic locking. Hibernate allows you to disable automatic increment based on changes to a particular property or a collection. Used if you don't want to increment the version of an object based on addition or removal of an associated object. So if you think one of the things need not be updated, so you can just say, like in the objects mapping file, optimistic locking equals to false. Like based on some properties, if some of these properties are changed, if you don't want to increment the version, then you can put that. But ideally, we don't do that, depending on the use case. So Hibernate pessimistic locking. How Hibernate can implement pessimistic locking. How optimistic locking is implemented is very important interview question. A lot of people asked me in past few years so many times. Okay, even I asked somebody I'm interviewing. So remember that, understand that if you have any questions, ask me. But nobody asked me about pessimistic locking, but we can take a look how to deal with it. So no version or timestamp attribute columns required. Will not work for conversations. So no valid, not valid for detached objects or sessions. Does not scale as well. Once object is obtained, call the lock method, which is like bad. Lock method lock mode dot upgrade waits for the locks if unavailable. Like depending on the lock mode, it behaves. So not available in all database vendors. So how do you implement pessimistic locking? You're going to get the object and you're going to call a lock method on it, and pass lock mode, whether it has to be upgrade or upgrade no wait. So throws an exception if lock is not available or not, and this particular thing may not be available in all the database vendors. Like if you are using MySQL, it may behave differently. Oracle, it may behave differently. So that problem is there. So let's see the code how you are going to do it in the Hibernate. You're going to get the session, begin transaction, session.get, and lock the row if the in the database if already locked. Wait for the lock to be released. So session.lock, you're going to say employee lock mode dot upgrade, and only works if the database vendor supports it. Otherwise, it will not support. So now locked, manipulate the object with no fear that nobody else is working on it, and commit and close. Okay. So this is how you do pessimistic locking. But rather than pessimistic locking, a lot of people ask me about optimistic locking. If you are not sure, please ask me right now, like how any questions on optimistic locking or pessimistic locking. Okay. And a lot of people I saw get confused between an pessimistic locking and optimistic locking. Even in the interviews, they give opposite definitions. Okay. So just be very clear when you're talking about optimistic locking, remember version IDs. Pessimistic locking, you're locking the database. Pessimistic, so you don't want anybody else to be operating on that, so you lock it. Okay. So in this lecture, we learned about transactions and realized they are not just about databases. Other resources can participate too, like JMS servers or legacy systems and stuff like that. So that's like a two-phase commit. And work through different ways to manage transactions. Either it can be hibernate, native hibernate, or you can do programmatically by saying like session dot begin transaction and all that stuff, or you can do declarative in the in the XML files, or JTA, like you are going to use external. We did not talk about it, but we know we can use external ones. And also unveiled a way to prevent lost database rights for users by using locking in our application. Especially the recommended approach is optimistic locking. Okay, any other questions? Are you guys with me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So now let's talk about something called like so you have seen some right queries that we have written in the during our first session of Hibernate or our exercise 1 or 2, like we are just saying like
Ravi,
yeah, what's up?
Ravi, can you give an example where where means in general life that where pessimistic blocking and optimistic blocking has been applied? Means do you know any means like you gave us about Amazon, so can you give us somewhere means it is applied or you know where it is applied?
I did not follow the question. Like you want to know what?
I just need to know real-time example of optimistic and pessimistic blocking. You know it if it's okay. Otherwise,
So optimistic locking, whenever I'm giving an example, I keep talking about an employee record, which is a valid case.
no,
It
I
can.
know that. Means as you gave us IRCTC example,
Uh-huh.
just like that. Means not specificate.
I don't know.
If
Like, even IRCTC, whether it implements optimistic locking or pessimistic locking, I don't know. Like it depends really on their design, right? What I'm
okay,
talking about is where there will be a problem I just talked about.
yeah, I know. But I was trying to ask you whether you know it. Otherwise, it's okay.
No, what I know, I don't really follow. What I know you're asking about?
I'm just asking if you know any example where means you have seen it, it's a pessimistic locking or optimistic locking, something like that.
I don't know like that, but I can tell you like if you're designing some thing where actually you don't want a file to be locked, or if you don't want somebody else being like looking at a website, you cannot tell whether it's optimistic locking or not. That's first thing. And second thing is in case studies you can use it. Like I don't know answer for your question. Like I can't even comment on somebody how they implemented pessimistic locking or optimistic locking. But what I can tell you is, okay, pessimistic locking can introduce problems. Like if you end up locking database row for somebody, like for example, I used MongoDB. Okay, MongoDB, we analyzed it for horizontal scaling in our application. Fine. What happens is there are like a lot of concurrent updates that keep happening in our application code. That's how it is designed. Okay. So because of that, but MongoDB by default, whenever you do a read or update, anything you do, it is locking entire database, which is bad. Similar approach, like that's the reason our idea was to actually bring the performance down and scale it horizontally. But because it is locking the entire database for any operation that is happening on the database, it actually responses times went up. That means it is not an anticipated behavior. Like if you read any documentation on MongoDB, it talks about like, oh, it's fast, it is application oriented, you can fetch it. But until you really implement, and because of it is internal algorithm to actually lock the entire database, we started noticing increasing in our response times. So I can tell in that dimension, but I don't know the real example of whether Amazon.com is doing that way or IRCTC is doing that way. I cannot tell that, but I can tell concurrent updates needs to be handled, and IRCTC is one of those examples where I noticed it did not handle concurrent updates. But whether it's optimistic locking or pessimistic locking, I don't know. But pessimistic locking specific example I can show is MongoDB, where I faced it real time. Like, oh, it is when it is going down. Response times I wanted to increase, make it better, but it was going in a tangential direction. And now MongoDB later versions are improved. Like they are actually locking not the entire database; they are actually locking the only table. So probably future versions they probably lock the row. So even row locking is applied even in databases, like pessimistic locking, not in the applications. You will see probably in Oracle database or somewhere, or any SQL RDBMS databases you must have seen. When you're trying to update a row and you did not apply the commit yet, that means that row is locked. If somebody else is trying to modify it, it keeps complaining, oh, somebody else locked it, you cannot do an update. So that is pessimistic locking that I have seen, like in production or in test environments. In one of my previous projects, I was trying to modify something, not in production, in test environment, and I kept it like that. I forgot. DBA came in and said like, "Oh, why are you rocking that row? What are you trying to do?" I'm like, "No." So this kind of thing is pessimistic locking. But yeah, that's what I can tell you. But to answer to your question, I don't know whether optimistic locking or pessimistic locking is not being implemented correctly in any real-time application. But I'm just thinking, why do we care though? Okay. But did you understand what is optimistic and what is pessimistic locking?
Yes.
Uh,
Ravi,
yeah.
are you speaking anything? I cannot hear.
No, no. I'm just thinking, what could lead to whether somebody doing optimistic locking or pessimistic locking. I'm just thinking about it. I'm not speaking.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, it says they used optimistic locking.
Say that one more time.
Chase application, banking application.
Yeah, like most of the people use optimistic locking. Pessimistic is bad because we lock the database, right? That's not good because it decreases the performance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wanted a concurrent.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So here is the thing. Like the topics that we want to discuss are like briefly review SQL query, discover Hibernate's different approaches to querying a database. Like all this while we were doing that session dot create criteria, session dot um, like we are not doing any complex queries yet, right? We were actually associating one to many and all that we just said, like session.get or session.find and all that stuff, right? That means we are actually getting the object by its primary key or stuff like that. Our Hibernate is generating those join queries based on your association mapping and all that. But that may not be sufficient in your real world application where you want to write complex SQL queries, right? So that kind of stuff in Hibernate can be done using some query language called Hibernate Query Language, HQL. It is based on top of similar to SQL, but it is HQL, Hibernate Query Language. Instead of using database table names, you're going to use object names. Like you have an account.java and you have an account table. So um, account.java has all the properties, right? So in the same way, what we do is select a model from account and give a name as model where id equals to something like that. You can write in similar to SQL, okay, structured query language. So let's see how we can do it and get acquainted to how to write queries. So all this while we were looking at query by criteria, but we want to see query by example and all that stuff as well. Okay, so let's see those samples. Okay, what is querying? Querying for data. Pull back specific data from the database based on specific requirements. So retrieve a specific object, retrieve a collection of a specific object type, or retrieve a collection of different object types. Okay? So in the database, handled through the structured query language, we do like select statements, right? So to pull out the data for querying. Querying terminology. So if you are using some terminology, narrowing down results is called restriction. Like if you just say select star from eBill, it is just a query. But if you want to get only anything after where clause is called a restriction. Okay. So narrowing down the results based on specified criteria in SQL accomplished with use of conditions appearing in a where clause. Okay, so this is called restriction. Anything afterwards where clause is called restriction. And projection, narrowing down the result sets, columns that we return. All this while we get the entire object, right? We don't know how to filter out just a few fields that we want to fetch from database. So using projection, you can do that in SQL, accomplished by identifying the columns in the select, right? So in the same way, in Hibernate, we can use something called projection. We'll talk about all these in detail, but let me talk about it right now, saying like, okay, this is how we are going to do. Select e-biller ID and all this from this table. So we're going to use a projection to say these are the fields that I need. I don't need anything more. Okay. So somebody asked me when I went for an interview in India, what is a projection also? I'm like, okay. So these are the reason why I keep referring to these kind of stuff is those are important. Uh, that's why I want to emphasize on aggregation. Grouping similar results together based on common attributes. Select eBiller ID, average of balance from eBill, group by eBiller ID. So these kind of grouping functions are aggregated functions like average, max, min, all these kind of group functions you can use by using aggregation. Okay. Let's see. Querying for data. So SQL statements can be simple, can be like with the where clause, or can be with complex like complex joins between account owner and a join table account owner and an account and all this. Okay. So returns a list of all account owners who have accounts with a balance over $500. So like this. Okay. So here list of columns that you're fetching is a projection. And even in a simple query, you can think of this as terminology that you can use. Columns projection, where clause onwards, it's restriction. Order by is ordering. Group by is aggregation. Having function is like group restriction. After grouping it, what is the condition that you want to put? That's a having. Okay. Querying with Hibernate. So provides multiple interfaces for querying. you can actually query by ID. All this while we were querying by ID, then query by criteria, query by example, and the Hibernate query language, and native SQLs can also be run through Hibernate. Okay, we're going to look at all those in this session. Okay, query by ID, query by criteria, query by example, Hibernate query language, and native SQL calls. Okay? So relieves the developer of having to know SQL or handwrite complicated queries. Okay. Hibernate understands the underlying database and knows how to write more optimized queries, but that's not. I don't agree to that. But for now, for your learning, yes, Hibernate does some optimization. Okay. If you don't like the way Hibernate tries to retrieve your data, it provides hooks for you to write your own query. So that's where we write our own custom queries. But for now, let's see how to write query by ID. You guys know this already, but let's see. Retrieve an object by its ID. Most common and easiest approach to obtaining objects, and fastest type of query, but can only return a single object at any point of time, because we are querying by ID. There will only be one record with that primary key, right? So you're going to say just session.get. Okay? Then query by criteria. Build a query by defining multiple criteria. So how can we do this? Specify constraints without directing string manipulations may result in less readable code than other methods. Like query by IDs is simple and easy to read, but query by criteria is not very readable once you write it. But let's see how to do it. Okay. So you're going to say like session.create criteria of the class name that you want to write queries on. And then, or you can pass the string name of the class, like fully qualified name of the class. You're going to add criteria like this, like add restrictions. Like these are the methods that we have, but let's see one example, then you will probably understand it better. Get results of the query as a list, like criteria, create criteria has a method dot list that will bring in all the list of all the objects, like select star from employee. You can just say session dot create criteria of employee class, and you got a criteria dot list that gives us the entire list. Unique result will give only one result. So these are the methods that are available on criteria object. Okay. Yeah. So, and also it has restrictions, like if you want to put restriction dot less than, greater than, equals to, all these utility methods are available depending on the need that you want to write. Okay. Then property order by projections. Projections is to filter out columns, right? Let's see the query building, how exactly it works. So that's why I was scrolling through to show you an example here. Okay. Criteria, session.create criteria. You have a savings account class. Okay. You got it. And now when you say create a criteria.list, you're getting all the objects of type say savings account.java from the database. Okay. Then order by savings account by balance ascending. If this is the requirement, you want to order by account balance ascending order, then you're going to add to the criteria add order dot ascending, and the balance is the name of the field name within savings account dot java. Okay, so you're going to order by balance. Now if you want to write a polymorphic query returns list of all account types, you're going to say instead of savings account, polymorphic we are talking about, right? It can be either checking account or savings account. And also we have an account.java, say suppose. So what we do, session.create criteria account.class, and you're going to get list of all the accounts. Okay. Retrieve a single object. Okay. Criteria, session.create criteria account owner.class with a specific email address. You're going to say like this. Okay. So this is the restriction query. Restrictions dot equals email equals this. Okay. So now you're going to add this restriction back to this original criteria that you created. That means it's going to fetch all the account owners whose email address is this one. That means we are getting the account owners by their email address, not by their ID. Okay. We can write those kind of queries also in SQL, right? So this is like mimicking that. Okay. So you're adding that criteria, and for sure if only one person will exist, then you're going to say unique result. Otherwise, it is going to fetch you a list of all the people. Okay. Then, so this is like dividing it, right? Yeah, like multiple steps. Here they are actually combined everything. That's why it is less readable, is what people say. But here you can understand it now because you have seen the individual statements. You can see it now here. Session dot create criteria, account owner dot class, dot add restrictions dot equal email is this dot unique result. That means you got an account owner object out of it, only one account owner object out of it by just chaining it. Okay, any questions so far? Are you guys with me?
Uh, will it fetch every row, all rows
No, this one
first?
will fetch only one unique result, right? Because otherwise it will do like you have to say create criteria, add restriction dot list. When you say dot list, here it is going to be list of account owners. You see what I'm saying? Here we said once you did all the criteria, you said unique result. That's why it is fetching only one object. But if you know for sure, like you have, you want to fetch all the objects of account owner, then you are getting all the objects of account owner with email hall at core servlets. If you know you have more than one record, you're just going to say session dot create criteria of all this dot list. Don't say unique result. You are going to say dot list, and left hand side will be list of account owners, and it is typecasted to list of account owners here. Okay, so I think we have those kind of examples also. Let's see.
Uh,
Did you follow what I said, or did I answer your question?
uh, I got it. And I have another question.
Yeah.
When we are create criteria of account owner dot class, is it going to fetch all the records?
No, not at that time. Not at that time. When you are actually executing this dot unique result is when it is actually firing a query.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you go back to this step, create criteria, you got a criteria. That's like a string, right? Then you're adding some more. You're adding some more. Until you execute this step, it is not firing a query.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions, Rini? So here is the thing. Can you use dot notation? Yeah, session dot create dot add and dot list. When you say dot list, you're going to get list of accounts. Okay. So here we are using dot notations also in the restriction. That means account owner has an object by name, as a field name by name address, right? So within that address, you want to filter by zip code. So you can just say address dot zip code, this one. Then you are going to filter account owners by zip code. Okay. Also valid with property object. Session dot create criteria dot add property dot for name. So you're going to do property dot for name this. So either you can do this or do this. That equals this. Okay. Between and in clause, like session dot create criteria, restrictions dot between. So balance is between 100 and 500. You can put that restriction. Okay. And then session dot create criteria, account dot class, property dot for name, account ID dot in list of account IDs. Like you can pass the array of account IDs in here. Okay. Then string matching. Anytime you have a question, please stop me right there. Okay. I'm telling both to both of you. And string matching like class. Okay. Your account owner restrictions dot like last name starts with like wildcard of H. Like okay, last name starts with H. Then you're going to just say restrictions, and you're going to fetch all the account owners. In the same way, session dot create criteria, account owner dot class, property dot for name.
When we are not sure whether it is going to get a single row or
Here we don't know.
multiple rows.
It may give more than one row or one row. That's why list is advantageous. Then list size will be either one or more.
Okay, we have to specify compulsorily the list or row.
Generally, do a list because if you are for sure it is going to fetch only one object, then you do it. Otherwise, fetch a list and get the, if the size is one, just get the get zero out of it. Yeah. So adding multiple criteria here. So create criteria, add restrictions lot like. So you're adding multiple criteria. Can also use I like for case sensitive. So ignore case, ignore case. That's when we are going to use I like. Okay. So these are the various ways that you can do queries on. Okay. This is adding more flexibility for you, right? So just experiment with these and try to write more queries here. Oring using multiple criteria. Okay, let's discuss this. Or operations are a bit trickier. Use restrictions dot conjunction and restrictions dot disjunction. What is it? So retrieves accounts where last name starts with H and first name starts with M, or email address ends in core servlets. So these kind of queries also may come in, right? So you may just say mm, restrictions dot disjunction dot add. You're going to put like disjunction is nothing but or, okay, um, and within that conjunction is nothing but and. Are you guys following? Like this is equivalent to saying select star from account owner where within parentheses last name like H and first name like M, or okay, or or email address like star coreservlets.com. So these kind of complicated queries, if you were to write, you can use disjunction and conjunction. Disjunction is nothing but or between two restrictions. Conjunction is nothing but and between two restrictions. Am I making sense to you?
Yes.
Others, am I making sense to you? Okay. So now here, session.create criteria, account owner dot add, restrictions dot SQL restriction. So if you want to put some SQL restrictions, like if you want to write your own functions, you're going to invoke those from here, like use SQL length function to return account owners with last names greater than 10 characters. Last name greater than 10 characters. So you can use SQL functions directly within Hibernate, also using within the restrictions dot SQL restriction. Then adding your own SQL joining table. So if you want to do your own joining table, retrieve accounts where all the transactions made by the account have been less than $500. So what are you going to do? Session.create criteria, account.class, add restrictions.SQL restriction. And what is the restriction that you're going to do? 500 greater than this one, like select tax amount from this where account ID is this, and you're going to pass in the alias name. That is. So here is the thing. Let's try and understand this. What is happening here? Uh, Adding your own join table. That means this is treated as a table. Like this subquery from here. This entire subquery from here. Um, you're treating it as a table, and you're going to use that alias name. Okay, you're going to use that alias name like atx dot account id. You're going to use the alias name like whatever is the alias name for account. This is like a subquery. Okay, select star from account comma uh, select star from account where um, transaction amount retrieved from the account transaction table is greater than 500, something like that. Okay, or is less than 500 here. It, yeah, is less than 500. um, So we are treating this subquery as another table, and we are trying to do a join. Is it making sense to you? Like we are querying account transaction table. We're querying account transaction table, and we are joining that with the account dot account ID. And this alias name is a placeholder for the table name, which will come from the root. That means whatever is the name of the table of the root, like account.class is there, right? That may generate a table name called account underscore or something like or underscore account or something like that. And we can just substitute it here. Okay, we can just substitute it here. During runtime, it gets substituted. Okay, during runtime, it gets substituted. Um, So this is how you can do joins on your own also, not just through associations. Did this query make sense to you guys, or do you want me to explain more?
500 greater than all. I didn't get that
Yeah,
part.
that's just a syntax. Like, okay, restriction is transaction amount. It is as good as saying transaction amount less than 500. Like this is one way of writing it, right? Like what we are trying to do is we are trying to restrict if 500 is greater than transaction amount or not. Okay, so anything it's as good as saying transaction amount less than 500, right? If we say 500 greater than transaction amount, what is being fetched from the right hand side of this? What is being fetched from the right hand side of it? Like,
Amount.
yeah, so we are just saying like 500 greater than amount, or it is as good as saying amount less than 500. One and the same in mathematically, right? But it is just syntax in restrictions. Restrictions.sql restriction takes the string entirely, and what we are saying is it is okay. 500 is greater than any of the transaction amount that's been fetched, and when we say all here, it is either going to be evaluated to true or depending on the database implementation. Um, Evaluate all to true if no rows are returned in the subselect query. So this all of is a function. So that means whatever is being fetched as transaction amount in entire set, think of it like entire result set, right? Like you have list of transaction amounts, and what we are trying to do is 500 is greater than all of those transaction amounts. That's the syntax that they are trying to use. Like if 500 is greater than all of those amounts that are being part of the list, then it returns a true. Otherwise, it returns a false.
In this query, we are getting the rows with amount less than 500.
That query is not doing anything yet. That right hand side query here, like let me highlight what I'm talking. This part is not doing anything yet. It is just fetching a amount, joining with the account.java. Okay. So it is just joining with account.java and getting an amount out of it. Okay. Getting an amount out of it. And this all is doing the magic. When you use all of something, what it does is um, like it is just like how you do inquiry, right? You're going to put in of all, right? In the same way, when you do all of all, this is a relational operation, right? 500 greater than all of, that means 500 is greater than all of these, then it is true. Otherwise it is false. So it's going to get all the amounts from here which are joined to account.java, and then you're doing 500 greater than all of this. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did not use this all syntax either. Like if I were to write, I will write my own SQL query and use like session.create native query, native query. Session.create native query will give a Hibernate query interface, and I can just say query.list. I get all my data that I need. So it is one way of using restrictions. You just have to be aware. Like that's it. Like just understand it. Like, oh, this is one way that is available to you if you were to write. If you were to write, or if somebody asks you to write, use only restrictions and write the query, you should be able to write something like this. Any questions? detached criteria. So detached criteria is okay. So you have a criteria, and here we are using account owner, restrictions, and we are just saying like current session. We are saying detached criteria that get executable query, and then so this detached criteria is like you don't need to be part of a session, whereas attached criteria you will be using within the session. Okay, so you can construct it outside of the session. Okay, you can construct the criteria outside of the session using detached criteria, and then you can associate whatever you constructed using like once you open the session, you can just say detached criteria dot get executable criteria. Sorry about that. Okay, detached criteria dot get executable criteria of the session, and you get the regular criteria, and regular criteria dot list is a list of account owners. Okay, can also be combined into one line, like detached criteria dot get executable criteria of the session dot list, like this. This is equivalent to what is happening here. Okay, so detached criteria is just that outside of the session, and attached criteria is nothing but inside of the session. Okay, within session, if you are opening something, it's an attached criteria. Restricting data with joins. How are we going to do that? So session.create criteria, you get list of all e-bills, right? With this, like when you do e-bill criteria.list, you're going to get e-bill. But before that, what they are doing is they are building another criteria by using e-bill. Like what they're doing is they're attaching it. Okay, session.create criteria e-bill dot create criteria e-biller. It's as good as doing one statement, right? But they identify like, okay, this is e-biller criteria and this is e-bill criteria. Now to the e-biller criteria, they're adding some restrictions called restrictions start like name visa. That means you're trying to find all the e-bills whose e-biller's name, okay, is visa, something like that. So when you do return all the e-bills issued from visa, are you guys following so far? Any questions still here?
No.
So e-bill session that create criteria. If you say e-bill, like it can be combined. All these three statements can be combined into one statement, just like this. Session.create criteria e-bill.create criteria e-biller, and on top of it, applying a restriction called name is visa, and it's called e-bill criteria that has been fetched out, and you can just say e-bill criteria.list, and it's going to give you list of all e-bills. Okay. Okay, you can start using aliases also in the restrictions. Alternative approach is using an alias and only creating criteria on one object. How are you going to do that? Session.create criteria, ebill.class, dot create criteria, ebiller. Okay, and add restrictions like name, visa. Okay, so what's happening here? This ebiller is there, right? How it will know whether it has to identify ebiller.java? Like how it will be equivalent to this guy? Did you guys get this question? How in the previous one also, in the previous sample that we saw also here, how did they identify the moment you said e-biller? Anybody can answer that? You have a e-bill class as a criteria, e-bill criteria, and how could they identify e-biller with this kind of name? Can,
You just created criteria e-biller criteria equals to e-bill dot class. So
where?
you are now creating on the first one, first row.
Yeah, we
You
did
did
that. Then I'm
yes.
asking about this one.
Okay.
Yeah, this one understood. As you said, it is e-bill class. What about this one? How it will know it's an e-biller? Nobody asked me this question. I'm surprised. That, can somebody tell me? So already we have identified here ebuild.class, right? So now we have everything available within ebuild.class as the field names, right? So within ebuild.class, if we have ebuilder, then it can identify that class. Making sense? Like here, let's go to ebuild.java. If we have it here, we have an ebuilder field name, right? So either criteria can be created either by passing the name of the class or by passing the field name as a string. And the field name is like within ebuild.java, you have ebuilder property name. That's how it is recognizing it as ebuilder.class. Otherwise, it will not know. Did you guys follow how ebuilder it is recognizing?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go down here. Okay, we are here, right? Okay. So we created it, create criteria, this, add restrictions. Okay. So alternatively, using an alias and only creating one criteria object will work. Let's see how it is. So you're just saying create criteria and create criteria viewer, and we are doing this. So instead, you can use a alias also. How to use the alias? Create criteria, create alias ebuilders as eb, and add restrictions like eb.name equals to this. So that means um, ebuilders. Ebuilders is the list of list of ebuilders. Do we have it in any of the ebuild.class? Now it's another problem, right? E-billers, list of e-billers, you should have it in e-bill. Otherwise, it will not know, right? Um, do we have list of e-bills in one of these samples? Probably. Let me see. Oh man. Hmm. Okay, so I'm just keeping everything in time. Wow. Okay, so let's see. I think this is a mistake. They should have said e-bill, not e-billers like this. Okay. E-billers is the name of the association that appears in the root entity mapping file. Let's see the root entity mapping file. Sorry. Um, Here, let's go here in the hibernate configuration.xml. Account hpm.xml. Do you see e-billers here? This is an account object. E-bill object. We got to look at e-bill. E-bill object. And do you see list of do you guys see the list of e-billers here? No, right? E-biller, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. So I think they
able.
put it as mistake. Yeah. It's just e-bill. E-bill. eBiller. Okay, not not the other way around. Or let me also open it here. Yeah, so it should just be eBiller. Okay. Then it's like an alias they are creating, and then say eb.name visa. Okay, so that's how you're going to use aliases also if you were to, like, these are the various ways of syntactical magic, but if you understand the concept, then we are good. Criteria object joining. Currently, only joining of associations are supported. That means one to many, many to one. If you have those kind of configuration, then only you can do joining through criteria. Otherwise, you have to use other ways of doing it. Right now, we are just looking at query by criteria, right? Query by criteria, we can do restrictions, we can do projections, you can do all these average group functions and all that. But joins you can do only if you have defined one to many or many to one kind of relationships. Otherwise, joining is not supported. So component joining is not supported at this time. So receive failure that the property you want to reference does not represent an entity. This is the error that you keep getting when you try to join something else which is not having relationships. Okay, so this feature is likely to be added in the near future. Okay, that's fine. Then if you want to load something, like this is another important concept in Hibernate. Indicate in the criteria to fully load all objects and not use proxies. Say for example, you have if you look at account.java, not account, probably ebill.java, you have ebiller right here, and also somewhere I am trying to look for one to many relationship also. Probably account has one to many relationships. Yeah, so account and account transactions is there right here. So let's go to account.java. We have these as collections, right? Like list of e-bills or set of e-bills here, or set of account transactions, right? So what's happening here, if you have configured it as eager, that means when you are firing a query for account transactions also should be fetched. If that is your use case, then uh, you're going to use eager fetch. By default it's eager fetch, but Hibernate also has a concept called lazy fetch. That means you can say when an account object is requested, I just need only the account object. But when account dot get account transactions is requested, that's when you're going to fire a query on getting the list of transactions. That is called lazy loading. Like what it is doing here is indicates in criteria to fully load all objects. If already set up to fully load in an object mapping file, that is no lazy equals to false. This is unnecessary. Otherwise, if you want to load it, uh, are you guys following? Like, if account is mapping it as lazy equals to true, lazy loading equals to true, then whenever you are firing an account object, account transactions are not fetched. Okay, their proxy is being fetched, but real query gets executed only when you are doing account dot get account transactions. So here we are talking about a way in the mapping file you said lazy loading equals to true, but if you want to eagerly fetch using a query, that means you are originally you have configured it as lazy, but in a particular scenario you want to fetch it eagerly, then you are going to say like a fetch mode join. That means when you are joining it, please fetch e-bills also. Though eBiller has a lazily configured eBills, I need you to forcibly fetch those whenever I am querying for eBiller in this situation. That is called forcing eager loading. Are you guys clear about what is a lazy loading?
Yes.
Yeah, very important interview question. People ask this all the time, like, what is lazy loading? You are not going to get it until you needed it. Okay, that is called lazy loading. Otherwise, by default, it's eager loading. Like, if you don't concentrate much, like when we were in a startup environment, like when we just started our application, entire application, we did not care whether to load. Like at that point of time, our idea is just to finish stuff, deliver stuff, and all that. We did not even concentrate on about marking stuff as lazy loading, whether it is required or not. We just put everything as eager fetch. Okay, because at that time we don't even know. We did not even think about a lot of performance issues that may crop in. But eventually, what happened was we had in a hierarchy like this. User has like accounts has like transactions have and accounts have like snapshots and stuff like that. When we did all this, if you just do a simple select on a account, you end up fetching everything on the top hierarchy and everything on the bottom hierarchy, because everything is eagerly fetched. So any relationship that a particular object have, all those queries get fired. We were like, oh, we're just fetching an account. Why is it like so many things happening in the background? And then we started realizing, oh, because of this, we started lazy loading. Like lazy loading is really, really important. Unless it is required, don't do a eager fetch, because you end up creating lot of queries on the database, which is not good. If it is not necessary, don't go to the database. That's the deal. Okay. Going forward, whenever you're writing a code anywhere else, if it is not required, don't do a database query. Unnecessarily, if you are doing database queries, your code will be identified at some point of the time. Like if it may not be today, but 3 months later, people will start noticing it. Oh, he keeps doing a lot of DAO calls and database calls, and you have to refactor the code again and again. Okay, so always remember that. And lazy loading is, that's why, very important feature that came in with Hibernate, and very helpful also. Okay,
What's the default? Lazy loading is false or
eager,
true?
eager is
Okay.
default. If you don't specify like this guy, if you don't specify anything in here we did not specify, right? So it's going to fetch by default unless you
Okay.
specify lazy equals to true. Yeah. So once you specified lazy, what is the default is your question?
No.
No, right? Yeah. Default, if you don't specify anything, eager is the default. Okay. Are we good so far?
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to transform the results, like transformer map the return result sets to Java objects. Like by default, maps return result sets to root entity, that you know, right? Like when you say any query that you did so far, it is default mapping it back to whatever is a Java class. Like if you said session.create criteria, account.class, everything, right? So whatever is the list of accounts that you're getting is all mapped to account.java, right? And it is same as good as talking about, this one is as good as talking about set results transformer to root entity. That means this is the root entity. So whether you put this one or not, it's the same. Okay. But this piece of code comes in handy when you're fetching not only from the root entity, from also some other joined class, and you want to create a object combined with the account object and account owner object, then this comes in handy. Am I making sense? If you have like account owner and account, select star like a dot star comma ao dot star, where from account a comma account owner ao, where a dot account id equals to ao dot account id. If that is the query, that means you are fetching both account owner object and account object. Or you may be interested in very few fields, right? Depending on your business need, right? You may be interested in very few fields, or you may be interested in entire object. But if it is fetching entire object, if you want both account owner data and account data, you may not be able to fetch it properly, right? With this kind of queries. So that's when you're going to write a transformer, result set transformer, which can transform to an object that you need, and then you can later think about how to get the data. Okay, are you following what I'm talking about?
Can you repeat that transform?
Yeah. Transformer thing is, say here you have account.java, right? And that means default it is fetching only properties within account.java, right? So if you were to write a result set transformer, that means not only account.java properties, account owner.java properties also. Like in the previous example, if we go here, you have a ebill class and ebiller class, right? And you are doing some operations on it. So by default, you're getting a list out of it, which is a list of e-bills, right? List of e-bills you're getting. Instead, if you also want e-biller data also a little bit in the result side, you may use some custom transformer. That means you want to construct an object which is actually having combination of account.java and account owner.java also. Then you're going to create your custom transformer. By default, it's a root entity. If you want to convert to your own custom transformer, you can do that also, is what I'm trying to say. Making sense?
When we are using root entity, what it is doing?
Root entity, it is default mapping it to account object. Whatever comes out of it is only account object. It is not doing anything else. Okay? Making sense? Did you follow or?
It's just like selecting all the rows from account object, right? This
Yeah.
get results in.
Yeah, but if you have this kind of stuff like we joined here, right? A little bit. We joined here with e-biller and e-bill.
Yeah.
So in that case, if you also want to know not only e-biller, you want to know not only e-bill data, you want to know e-biller name also, right? If you want to bring that guy in, you can use projections. That's one way of doing it. But you can also put your custom transformer. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Projection can filter out fields that you want,
Yes.
but within an object. But if you want to get it from multiple objects, then you want to write your own transformer, like a result set object kind of stuff, wherein you will get whatever you need. Okay.
In transformer, we can specify whatever columns you want to.
Object. You are going to construct an object and specify it.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we said root entity, and here, okay, if you want to get, so this is one important interview question, like if you want to eliminate duplicates using a criteria query, how are you going to do that in Hibernate, right? So if you want to eliminate duplicates, you can just say like distinct root entity. That's when it is going to remove the duplicate. It is as good as saying select distinct star from or a dot star from account A. Okay, so that's when it's going to give you all the distinct data. Okay, very important. See, recently one of my friends uh, asked me this question. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's this set transformer. Okay. Then result set return multiple object types. This is what I was referring to actually. Um, like these two are default that come in with Hibernate, and you can use it. But this is the thing that I was referring to. Like what I am referring to is this. Return multiple object types. So let's see. Alias to entity map returns a list of map where each map has an instance of all objects identified in the query. Let's see this here. Session.create criteria. Create alias account transactions. Set result set transformation map. Alias to entity map. So this one is as good as saying this. Okay. So alias to entity map is nothing but here you got the list of this piece of code is as good as saying here like you are going through so you're going through the result set and you got a map, and from that map you got the root alias, which is an account, and from that map, if you get atxt atx, which is the alias, right, which is the alias, and which is giving you account transaction. That means you're iterating your list. Okay, you're iterating your list, and you could able to get root entity. If you say root alias, you're going to get the root object, and if you're saying the ATX, you're going to get the account transaction object. That means the map that has been returned, create alias to entity map. That means the entire result set that is returned will have both uh, this one and this one also available as a map. That means this map list is there, right? They're iterating through this map list actually. Like uh, this PDF has like a lot of typos. I'm sorry about that, but the thing is, this result is there, right? This result is nothing but actually this map list, not the result. Are you guys following what I'm trying to say? Like this entire list came in for you. Once you iterate through this map list, this actually once it said result, you may be wondering, oh, where is this result coming from? But it is actually the map list. Once you iterate through this map list, you have maps. Because you said transformer is alias to entity map, that means everything should be alias. Like it returns a list of map objects, and each map has root alias and also the other alias that we are using, which is account transaction. That means you can either fetch a list of all the you can either fetch a root object for each row, or you can also get the other alias that you have used within the criteria also. Are you guys following what I'm trying to say? Like this list is a list of map objects. When I say list of map objects, can it exist? Can you guys visualize? Like this session that create criteria, that create alias, that set is there, right? So these are all the default criteria that are available. And when you say criteria.alias to entity map, it is giving you list of all objects, and that list of all objects is nothing but list of map objects, because you have asked Hibernate to give you alias to entity map. That's why when we iterate through this map list, instead of result, replace it with map list. You're iterating an object, and each of that object is a map, and within that map you're getting either the root alias, or you're getting the alias name that you gave, ATX. So both are there. That means you have list of map objects, and each map is of key size 2, and the keys that are available are either root alias or ATX alias that you have. Are you guys following so far?
Yes.
Yeah. So similarly, what I'm mentioning here is these are all default Hibernate provided us, right? If you want to do your own custom, like not just the map object, if you want to just get the object called account owner.java or some result set, you can do that as well. That was my thought. When you return it, you're going to get list of account owner objects. From that, you're going to get account and account transaction. That's how you can do your customization. But that being said, if you can understand this, that also makes sense. Okay. Are you guys with me? Are you guys able to follow?
Yes.
Okay. Then Hibernate projections. We were talking about projections a lot, right? Let's see what it is. Restricting returned columns. Only bring back objects or columns you want to see. So Hibernate created of either the projections of property classes, projections.property, or for names. We can see here. So account object, you're creating a list of projection ID as account ID, created date, and balance. And here you are going to set whatever is being returned back to a transformer, and the name of the transformer is new alias to bean result set transformer, and you're passing in a DTO, like you're passing in an object that you want to construct. Account summary DTO will have fields account ID, creation date, and balance. Only these three fields will be available, and the list that is returned is summary list. The list that will be returned is of type account summary DTO. Making sense? And this will be a non-managed object. This is just a result set. Like it is as good as iterating through the list of results and constructing an object of yours of you constructing an object that you want and giving constructing a list here. If you understood JDBC, how we fire query, and you get a result set, iterate through the result set, construct a list of objects that you want, you will understand this as well. Like here, session that create criteria, we fired a query, we constructed a query saying like select account ID comma creation date comma balance from account object. Okay, once you got it, you don't need to iterate through the result set using Hibernate. What you're going to do is, set result transformer. That means whatever results that are being coming in, result transformer, use alias to be in result transformer, which is default with the Hibernate. It is a Hibernate API. And this account summary DTO is your class. That class will have account ID, creation date, and balance as the properties, and you will get a list of account summary DTO. You need not actually iterate through entire your result set, was the thought. Is it making sense? That this is the reason I did Hibernate immediately after JDBC. If you have fresh on mind how you used to get the result set while result set dot next and all that, um, you will remember this. You can easily connect it to this topic. Is it making sense? Any questions? Are you guys here? Actually, I could not hear any of you. Are you here?
Can you repeat this query?
This query? Yeah. So here, what it is doing is, do you have a specific question, or you did not understand the entire query?
I did not understand.
Okay. So you have the account dot class, right? You know, did you follow till here? Like
Yes.
what we are trying to do from the account object, you don't need the entire fields. You want only ID, creation date, and balance. Okay.
Okay.
So these are the three fields that you need. When you do just uh, session dot create query, set the projection, and then dot list, you're going to get list of account objects, right? But account objects does not have only these three fields. Those have more than these three fields, right? So here, in order for you to get a different object which has only these three fields that are of your interest, right? So then we transform it to account summary DTO. This account summary DTO is a bean, simple Pojo that you can think of, which has account ID, creation date, and balance. So if you just need limited fields from that, okay, you don't need entire fields. If you just need only limited fields that you're going to use only for this purpose, which is called account summary object, then you do this, and left hand side, the list that is going to be returned is of type account summary DTO. The left hand side
Does this
usually,
class exist?
say that again.
Account summary DTO. Does
Hmm.
this class exist, or we just for naming purpose?
It exists. It should be there. Otherwise, it will throw an error. This account summary DTO is your own class. It's custom class that
Okay.
you created.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Every time if we want to select only required
yeah,
columns, we
yeah.
have
You
to
may have to
create
create your
separate
own
class.
Pojo. You can have any number of Pojos that you want. No, problem. Yeah, this is one approach. I'm not forcing you to use create criteria, right? So there is another approach also. I'll show you how to deal with it. Okay. But this is one approach. That, yeah, as you said, the limitation is as many times, as many queries that you write you may end up creating your own custom object depending on the properties that you are fetching, right? That depends on
Yeah.
your design, that you, how you go about. But that's a valid point. And but this is one way. Okay, this is one way if you just want few properties.
Why it is created like that means creating Pojo class? Is there any advantage?
Pojo
Like,
class, you don't need to iterate. Like account.java can bring in so many different things that you don't need, right? And also another thing is this account.java is at the is a domain object, and it's in the DAO layer, or it's an entity resembling your database table, right? Personally, I feel like I don't want to send it to the presentation tier. Okay,
okay.
I want to bring in a layer. Okay, anything that is an Hibernate object is a Pojo, agreed, but I don't want to go make it available till presentation tier, and they send me another account object which has all the custom stuff that they put in, and I may end up persisting that in the database. I'll give you a simple example. Okay, we construct and everything in JSON. Okay, so JSON is think about it like a entire everything is string in key value pairs. Okay, so your if you have a user.java, and if you have user ID, creation date, and balance, or something like that, from the using some libraries, I can just say convert my user.java to a JSON. So it constructs it a JSON string. I send it to UI. They do some modification and they send me back a JSON again. Okay, on the server side, I convert that to object. Okay, from JSON string, you can construct Java objects. Okay, very
Okay.
good libraries that are available are Jackson and JSON. From Google, it is JSON. Jackson is another library that deals pretty good with JSONs. Okay, this user object is my Hibernate, like Pojo, and also entity mapped to my user.java. So here I'm exposing my data, bunch of data that I have in user.java to the UI, which I don't like it. I want a layer that wraps around. Okay, always I send only account summary DTO to UI, but not entire account object. So they know the fields only that they need. They don't need to know entire my structure in my account.java. You see where where I'm
Yeah,
arriving
yeah.
at?
I'm getting.
Yeah, during that time you may deal with these DTOs, but it's a debatable thing. Like people, why do you need a DTO and all that? But I personally feel it is still required, and that clear distinction is still good. Okay, that distinction is still good, is my thought. Okay, making sense?
Yes.
Yeah,
Can we make uh, make sure that domain object is not exposed to the UI layer in service?
in the service, yeah, we can do that
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, we can do that as well. It's just wherever you want. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So if you want to do some group by functions and all that, you can do something like this. Like you can create a account class, e-bills. You can do group, like group by using projections. You can do that group by thing, right? So you are creating a list of projection like account ID, group by ebiller ID, and also you want to get the count of ebiller ID and average of balance. If you want to do all this kind of stuff, you can do that. Like collection of objects with four fields: account ID, e-biller ID, number of e-bills received by the said e-biller, and average amount. If this is the requirement, then you're going to use projections to do the group by. column that you want to group it by, and you want to count, okay, count how many e-billers you have, and also average of fields, like average of the balance that you have. So no having feature available at this time, when we right now, but subsequently there is no having. You cannot like, if somebody asks you in an interview, how can you mimic having in Hibernate? You cannot do having. Like, do you guys know SQL, like how, where we use having, like
In the group.
yeah, in the group by, right? Select
Yeah.
employee ID, comma, count of employees, group by employee ID, having salary greater than, something like that. You can write the queries, right? Or having how many residences they have, like, or how many houses they have. You can just say like select employee, comma, count of number of houses as counter, group by employee ID, having counter greater than one. So if you want to fetch employees who have more than one house, you can fetch it by the this having clause in the group by. In the same way, you can mimic that using this, like a list of all the employees, and you can add more restriction on top of it if you want to, but you cannot have a having feature. Okay, that's
Instead of
important.
this projection query, can we replace it with the restrictions?
You can do that if you want, but you cannot get only these fields with the restriction. Like projection is also doing not just the group by functions, it is also helping you in identifying the fields that you want to fetch, right?
Sorry, your voice is breaking. I
Ah,
couldn't get.
are you okay now?
Yes.
Okay. So what I was saying is, projection is not only doing the group by functions for you here. Yeah, where clauses, wherever you are mimicking where clause, you can replace it by restriction. But restriction will not help you in bringing only the fields that you need. Projection can help you doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, these are all query by criteria. So far that we saw is all query by criteria. Now we have something called query by example. Okay, so what is it? Set up an example object for Hibernate to use to generate a database query. So for example, create example criteria based on these objects. Let's see what it is. Okay. So account owner, you're going to create an account owner, like new object, set the account owner name, create an example criteria based on the user. So what are we trying to do? So example owner. So you're going to create a owner object, and it is called example object here, right? So use the criteria to execute the query for owners named Hall. So how do you use to do that? Create criteria, account owner dot class, add example owner. That means uh, this way also you can put all your criteria. Just like how you asked restrictions, you can replace restrictions with the query by example. That means you're setting whatever properties that you need within that example object, and you can just add it to the criteria. Making sense? Then it is going to look for account owner objects where account owner last name is Hall. Okay, so that it is as good as doing a restriction here. Did you guys realize that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Setting up an example object. Certain fields ignored by default. Identifiers like ID fields are ignored. Version properties ignored. Associations are ignored. So you cannot do anything with associations. Only thing is you can do a query. Any null valued properties are ignored. Do you have a question? No. Okay.
Your voice is breaking. I cannot hear you.
I don't know. I am on speed internet itself. Like I have two lines. One is a slow one and one is speed one. I'm on speed one. I don't know. Others also facing the same problem?
Yes.
No, Ravi.
You guys can hear me properly, or are you guys okay?
Sometime breaking voice. Ravi.
Oh, okay. I am not even far. How are you feeling now? Are you guys okay? Still
Now it
breaking
is
up?
okay.
Or maybe I went forward. Okay, sorry. Um, okay. Certain fields are ignored by default. Any null valued properties um, are all ignored, and can also specify like ignore case, execute zeros, like exclude null, and all these type of criteria you can specify on the example objects. So let's see a little bit of examples here of example objects. Example, okay, and on top of it you can write restrictions if you want to. Okay, so execute the query for owner named Hall who also live in the state Maryland. So it's as good as you can do both. Okay, even I don't use this example thing in our project. We don't use it, so I'm just skimming through, like, so you will know, like, if somebody asks, you should not be like, oh, what is it, you know it, like, you're creating an example object, and based on that you're passing that example object to actually write the query. So here is the thing: query for owners named Hall with balance of 1,000. So what you did, you created example account with 1,000 and account owner object Hall. Both are example objects, and you are creating account owner, example owner, and example account. Okay, so that's how you can actually write fetch account owners of name Hall and who has balance um, equals 1,000. Okay. So great places for query by example are where you may have a question, right? Application with GUI pages that allow users to select multiple attributes. So um, like users may select in CarMax, right? CarMax.com, you can use like, okay, used car, new car. So we are going to construct a car object with whatever they have chosen, and we send it across to the database. That gives us a list of all the objects matching that criteria. And this is a perfect example. If you guys remember in JDBC also I told, like, where you can do create, where you can use create statements, right? I said when users are selecting the query on the fly, that's when we can use uh, create statements, right? So this is one good example of CarMax.com where you can use example objects, and also you can use criteria like create statement if you are using plain JDBC. Is it making sense? Are you guys with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So in this lecture, we learned traditional SQL, how to write queries, identified several approaches like query by criteria and query by example. Criterion is another class, and the restrictions, property, order, projections. So now next we see how to write native query language and calling native SQL through Hibernate. This will be quick as well, I think. Yeah. So let's see. We'll just wrap that up as well today, and we'll leave JPA for next session. Yeah, ask me any questions if you have. Okay. Okay. Spend some time learning about Hibernate query language and how to leverage it to write database queries. Prepare ourselves for cases where we need to write our own SQL. Okay, by understanding what to accomplish through Hibernate. That is what is called Hibernate query language. So Hibernate query language is similar to SQL, object based instead of tables and columns. Syntax includes objects and its field names. Okay, understands inheritance, can issue a query with using a superclass or interface. So Hibernate engine may turn one SQL statement into several SQL statements. Does not allow for SQL based database hints. Okay, so bypasses any object caches such as persistence context or second level cache. We'll talk about second level cache in the last session of Hibernate, which is very important, and a lot of people ask you questions on that. But you got to think about something in mind. Like until you are using criteria and simple SQL queries by fetching ID and all that, you're good. Okay, you're good with Hibernate. But when you start configuring these second level caches and all that, if you are using native SQL and generating Hibernate queries or HQL generating Hibernate queries, you should really understand it may affect your second level cache. Okay, I will explain this again when we are talking about second level cache, but for now think about it like these will affect second level cache. Okay, we'll talk about it again. Query is an interface and a main class used for building and executing a HQL. Okay, and similar to a JDBC prepared statement, think of it like a prepared statement. Okay, what is a prepared statement? Anybody remember what is a prepared statement? Anybody remember it? Or it's totally green, like gray. Nobody remembers what a create statement, prepared statement is all about.
Prepared statement, if we want to fetch specific conditions, we'll replace the question marks after with set.
And what is the advantage of prepared statement? Why do we use prepared statement?
Conditions to specify conditions.
Even in create statement, you can specify condition. You guys are not following JDBC at all. Then pre-compiled. It is pre-compiled. You don't need to compile it on and off. Only once you will compile. The rest of the time, you're going to use the pre-compile statement. That way, we are removing the effort of prepared statement. Like we're removing the effort of compilation. That overhead is gone. Just you substitute the values, as you said, replacing the question marks. The difference between create statement and prepared statement is in the create statement, if the query changes, like how we talked about CarMax example, like each time user may use a different criteria. So based on that, you're going to generate a new query, right? Any new query that is generated should be compiled again by database. So this with using prepared statement, we are going to compile only once and will not compile it again and again. That's the advantage. And as you said, you can have the index based or name based convention to replace your question marks. Are you guys clear now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, JDBC got to remember, and yeah, prepared statement, create statement, you should be really thorough. Otherwise, people may ask these questions. Otherwise, it's difficult to clear interviews. Then, so this one query interface is similar to that. You will follow that once you see the examples. And when you say query.list, you will get the list of objects. Unique result, you will get only the single object created using the Hibernate session. So how to do that? Okay. So get all checking accounts. You can just say create query from checking account. Okay. If you notice, you are not writing select in the beginning. You're just saying from, right? It is going to construct that select and all that. Checking account, get all checking accounts dot list. It is as good as saying in your previous examples like this, like create query. Like we were not doing criteria. Okay, we are doing session dot create query. Okay, and you are passing a string. And once you got the query interface, you're just calling dot list. Okay, and then return all object types. Like here it is just the checking account. It is going to give us list of checking accounts. Here it is going to list of all account types, and here it is going to return list of all object types. These two are same. In my opinion, these two are same, but except that it is typecasted to account, and here it is not typecasted to account. Okay, does not require a select clause, just a string. Okay, then binding query parameters, like either you can do position based, like how you said in the prepared statement, with a query like question mark. You are going to say like prepared statement dot set set string of 1 comma something, or pst dot set int of 2 comma something, like that, right? In the same way, here also you're going to do position based, or you can also do name based. Like name based may not be there in JDBC, but here you can use it. Okay. Position based, faster on execution, variable substitution. Name based does not require code change if a parameter gets added in the middle. Like in your query, if you are adding a parameter in between, if it is position based, say for example, you had like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and I added something in between, you may end up changing all the indices afterwards, right? um, Otherwise, if it is name based, order doesn't matter. That's the advantage with the name based. We'll show these examples. Okay. Position based is faster in execution. That, remember that this is the name based thing that we are talking about, I think. Let's see. So from account a, where a dot balance greater than question mark, you guys know this already, right? A dot question mark means index based, like a prepared statement, and a dot creation date question mark. So date equals to new date 2008 December 01, and get account session dot create query, and we are going to set 0 1000, which is balance, and set 1 the date. Okay, so this is index based. In prepared statement also we did something like this, right? Then name based, instead of that you're going to replace it with names. So what we are going to do, get account set date some date, like order doesn't matter here. That is what we are trying to show. Previously order matters. If I say set date of 0, it gets set here, and you may end up in troubles. Whereas if it is name based, set date some date some balance, so order doesn't matter. It gets substituted, whatever values you set gets substituted here. Okay, are you guys with me so far?
Yes.
Yeah. Then setting parameters generically, like here from account a dot balance this, a dot creation date here. So you can do set parameter some date hibernate date, like generic way, how you want to specify the date object you can specify. Okay. Then binding by object. Name based binding accepts an entire object for setting query parameters. Okay, so you have noticed it here, right? This is an object. Name based binding is allowing object, entire object, right? This is an object, date is an object, um, integer is an object, and all that, right? So let's see what it is talking about. Placeholder names must match the object attribute names. Hibernate uses reflection Java Bean properties to map the attributes. Date is default object, but if you have a custom object, you can use that custom object also, was their thought. Okay, let me see if we have example. Okay, so here, see here, query from eBill, where eBalance equals greater than balance, and eBiller ID is greater than eBiller ID, and query params. So this one, you're constructing an eBill object, right? You're constructing an eBill object, and here session, create criteria, set properties, query params. Okay, you have a balance and eBiller ID, so it's going to accept the object. Are you guys following? So instead of setting the query params individually, we are setting the properties as query params object. Okay, so if the names of if this name matches this name, like within this e-bill, these two, then it works. Otherwise, it will not work. Are you guys with me? Following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Pagination. What is pagination? Are you guys aware of pagination? Like if the result set is too big, like 1,000 rows or something on a single page, if you have like 1,000 or 2,000 rows, it's too much, right? So we're going to chunk it up. Like we show 10 rows each or 20 rows each in each page, right? And we span it off to how many our pages we want, depending on the number of rows. Like if I have 1,000 rows, and if I want to display 20 rows in each page, I end up having 50 pages, right? I end up having 50 pages. So all that stuff we want to take care of, right? Um, so that can be implemented using Hibernate. How? Break up large result sets into smaller group pages. Set first results in the start row. So in the query interface, there is a set first results and set max results. Okay. So if you set the first result and max result is like, say, if you say on on page one, when you are showing it, you need not fetch all the entire 1,000 records, right? So all you need to do is, okay, select star from employee object where row ID is 0 and row ID less than 20. You need not fetch everything, right? Because you're on the page one, you know how many pages you have. And when you click on page one, you don't need to fetch everything, all the data. All you're going to get is first result is starting with 0, and result is probably 19, right? It's a zeroth based index. So you're going to specify first results as a start row and max result as how many rows you want, and you're going to get only those many records. And if you're on page 10, you're going to say like, okay, request is coming from page 10, so 10 times 20 is 200, so I want to know from 201 to 220. So you're going to set your first results and max results accordingly. So that way you are not bombarding the database to, and also a lot of IO happens, right? If you are fetching like 1,000 records at the same time, a lot of IO, like a lot of data reading and writing reading happening from the database. So it may introduce some memory issues. Instead, if you chunk it, you're like making it smart, like whatever data you want, you're just querying only that and fetching the data back. Okay. Keep track of current index in order to continue pagination. Okay. So how do we do that? So get account page one, create criteria from account, set max results is 50. So it's going to fetch only first 50 rows. Okay. Then retrieve subsequent pages. So you're going to say starting index of the page and max results. So from that, based on that, you're going to fetch 50 rows each, depending on the index that you passed. Are you guys following this pagination concept?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Then setting timeout. Set the time allowed for a specified query to execute. So if the query is taking too long, you may want to time it out. Otherwise, you may introduce the database related problems. So you can specify a timeout in seconds. So Hibernate will throw an exception if a limit is exceeded. Okay, based on the JDBC timeout implementation itself, it has been done. Okay, how are you going to do that? Get accounts, and then you set timeout. 30 seconds is a timeout, but it's too long. 30 seconds is too long in real time. But yeah, this is the max timeout. Setting the fetch size. So optimization hint leveraged by the JDBC driver. So not supported by all vendors, but if available, Hibernate will use this to optimize the data retrieval. Used to indicate the number of records expected to be obtained in a read action. If paging, should set a page size. So let's see how it is. Setting a fetch size, like oh okay, how many records it is fetching. You need not specify, but if it is specified, it will be more optimal. Okay. Then fetch size is max records. Adding comments to the query. Developer provide comments included in the log along with the Hibernate SQL query. Like if you want to specify some the comments, you can specify it. Like you should say set comment on an SQL statement, and you can see assist in distinguishing user generated queries versus Hibernate generated queries. Like that helps you in identifying whether you have generated something or Hibernate generated something. Like this is using session.create query, right? It's not using session.create criteria, where if you say criteria, Hibernate is generating that. Here you are generating it. So retrieving the first page for the account object. So if you look at these kind of comments, then you are like for sure, oh, you generated this query. And we can see the smoking gun in the application. Oh, this is the query some of the one of the application developers created, and that is creating problems, and you can understand a little bit better. Other than that, it has no other help. Combining settings can be combined together on a single query. Set on individual queries, not across all HQL queries. Let's see some settings that you can manipulate. um, these are the settings like max result, fetch size, timeout, comment, retrieving all account objects. Okay, if you are retrieving all account objects, like these are the things only specific to this query. It's not to entire Hibernate session. Okay, it's just for this query. Okay, externalizing queries. That means defined queries in an object mapping file can be global or included inside a class definition. So how can you externalize the queries? Like if you want to reuse these queries, okay, how to do that? Let's say isolates the SQL statements. Useful if you want to modify all queries, optimize the queries. So how do you want to externalize it? So you have a Hibernate mapping.xml class, and you can specify a query like this: get all accounts, fetch size, and all that. And you can put the real query in the C data because this is XML. Anything constant, you're going to put it in the C data, and um, this is the query. Like when you want to use get all accounts in multiple places, you can use it. You need not put it in a Java class file. You can put it in an XML file. It is global. It's not specific to a class. It is globally available within the Hibernate config.xml, okay, or hpm.xml. Then here you have another query by name, get account by balance. Okay, calling externalized queries. How you are going to call? Named query. So get named query, get all accounts. Like named queries are like constants. Like even the parameters that you're going to pass, everything will be like predefined, and you're just going to set the values that you want to set. Okay, get named query, and you're going to just say set some balance and stuff like that. So defined within a class. If it is defined within a class, you can do it like this. Okay. Get account by balance. This is the one which is defined within a class. Only this class is aware of it. Okay, only this class is aware of it. Whereas here, um, entire global, anybody can use it. Like any class can be using it. Whereas here, it is used only by account class. Account class only knows about it. Nobody else knows about it. Okay, that's why you have to give a fully qualified name here. Whereas here, you could have just given the get all accounts as the name. I guess clear on what is the I guess clear on what is a named query. Any questions so far? No question. Can you guys hear me at all?
Yes. Can you repeat the named query?
Okay. What was the question? Like, did you follow or you did not follow at all?
I did not follow the named query.
Okay. So here, why do we need named query? Okay. Maybe that will answer your question. Why do we need name queries? Say for example, if a query is constant, you don't want to you don't want to read it so many times, right, or write it so many times. It can be declared constant, like that query will not change at all. Like get all accounts, you want to specify fetch size and everything, which is optimized way, right? You don't want to re-optimize it over and over again. Like in your entire application, whenever somebody needs all accounts, they need to go this route. If you want to bring in that kind of pattern, you're going to make it a global and named query is like you give some name to it and you put a query from account. Okay.
Mm.
um, and so all this will be constant. Anything that you want, you can append it. Like what you're going to do is so all this has been optimized to fetch all the accounts, so global, available to everyone. Fine. And so to do this, you're going to declare it in the XML, not within scope of any class. It is scope of something outside the class. Okay. That's when it becomes globally available. So
Mm.
anywhere in your application, get all accounts is going to use this pattern. Okay.
Mm.
Named query is nothing but constant string. It will not change at all. When it does not change, no point putting it in Java code. You can put it in XML file. And if you put it in an XML file, you don't need to rebuild it. If you want to change this, you are going to change it in only in one place. If it is in Java code, if you change it, you have to do a compilation again, right? You have to recompile it. If you change anything, you have to compile it again. Otherwise,
Mm.
if this is the case, you need not compile it. That's one advantage. Okay. Then if you want to, these named queries can be at the class level and also at the global level. If it is at the class level, it's within a class. Okay. Nobody else outside the world knows about it. If it is just within a class, um, you have to give fully qualified name for the query. If it is global, you just give the name of the query, what you specified in the XML. That's all. It's like constant thing. It's not changing often. The query is constant. Then you use a named query.
Uh, One question.
Yeah.
If we use that global query,
Hmm.
uh, every time it will come going to fetch from the database, or it will be stored somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
That
So that's a good question. That is giving a good segue for us to talk about caching on Hibernate. So the thing is, think of it as like a prepared statement. It is compiled once, and you need not compile it again and again. And also, mm, if you configure secondary level cache, okay, what is secondary level cache? Let's talk about that first. Um, Anything that you do within a session is nothing but first level cache. Like if you repeat a same operation multiple times within a session, that session is going to remember that. Within that session, if you again say like session.get multiple times for the same criteria, it will not repeat the same query to the database. It will look at the session and give you the data. It's not going to actually look at the database. It will only look at the database once. Once the session is closed, everything is forgotten. Okay, that is called first level cache. You guys know first level cache already.
mm,
Okay, second level cache. Second level cache is like you want to remember few things across sessions. Like you opened a session, you closed a session, you reopen a session and you close the session. Even at that time, you want to remember few stuff. Okay, then you are going to put some things in a secondary level cache. Okay, you're going to put it in a secondary level cache. What happens when you put it in a secondary level cache is uh, there will be a query region within Hibernate persistence context. There will be a query region. Okay, that query region will have all these queries. Say, for example, as you asked right now, get all accounts is there, right? It's going to give a name, get all accounts, and its query and its result set. It's going to cache everything. Okay, so get all accounts is the name of the query, and it is in so and so region. and this is the query that has been executed, and this is the result set. Like that, it is going to remember everything in that region. That is called second level cache. Okay.
Where we have to specify that
In
particular.
a configuration called ehcache.xml. Like here, you have this src main resources, right? Yeah. So this is my resources project, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to create here a ehcache.xml, eh-cache.xml. If you just put it in the class path, Hibernate will recognize that. You don't need to specify anywhere else. Okay. And you need to specify like there are two ways of secondary level cache. Okay. One is the one that I just described, which is called query cache. Okay. That means there is a region and where exactly query gets executed and its result sets are also been stored and everything. Okay. Other way to do query cache is by specifying the names of the objects. Okay. If you are actually doing it this way, you're just specifying your query region. Like get all accounts is there, right? You're going to specify where this get all accounts is there. Is it enabled for query a second level cache, or what is the region it is available on? All that you're going to specify. Okay, that is second level cache. Otherwise, if you want to do it at the object level, okay, if you want to do it at the object level, then you're going to specify the name of your object. Say for example here, account.java is there, right? This account.java you want to configure for second level cache, you're going to put it in ehcache.xml. And what happens is select star from account where id equals this. Those kind of queries, it's going to put it in cache. That means it's going to put data in the second level cache, only lookup by id. Okay. So lookup by id is one kind of second level cache. Lookup by query name, named queries, right? Lookup by query is another kind of second level cache. Making sense? Like there will be a region where you have the result sets configured, and entity can be cached, or where entity can be looked up by id only, or you can look up by various other things and you can cache that as well. Okay. And you may ask me, okay, if that is the case, how the data gets refreshed, right? So you can specify the interval. Okay, how often you want to poll database and get the data refreshed in the cache. Okay. So how often you want to evict an object, that means remove an object from Hibernate session. All that you can specify in that ehconfig.xml. ehcache.xml, not config. Okay. um, this is the advantage. Like named queries can be best fit for query cache. Okay.
What we generally use to cache in real time.
Yeah, in real time, that's a good question. In real time, lookup data, like say for example zip codes is there. Say for example, how often zip codes change, right? They don't change often, right?
Yeah.
So zip codes can be cached. Or say for example, if you are not a trading platform, like that means you need to know the ticker, the ticker in the sense stock market, the tickers AAPL, Apple ticker value changed. Say suppose if you are on a trading platform, you need to get the data real time, right? But if you are in a Charles Schwab or those kind of applications where they are not trading platforms, but they are like actually managing your money, they need not show that often, right? They need not show the price change that often. 10 minutes is okay for them. Okay. Those kind of guys can also cache the sticker values and asynchronously get the data once in every 10 minutes and show it to their users. um, those kind of places, like where exactly, if you think data will not change that often, then you can use second level cache. Okay.
Is there any limit we have to? specify this much only in the caching?
No, there is no limit. That's another problem, right? Query cache is not good, but entity level cache is good. Okay. Query
Okay.
cache remembers the results and result sets also, which is like a memory limit, right? So that's why
Yeah.
it's not good. Like if you are for sure, if the limit is this much, like you have to specify that limit query and all that in your SQL, that whatever you write or named query, if you specify fetch size and everything as we described here, if you describe the fetch size, timeout, and all that, then you're good. Query should be optimized. Otherwise, you end up overloading your JVM. Ultimately,
Yeah.
it all sits on your JVM, right? So
Yes.
you have to be really careful when you're configuring query cache. But if it is just entity cache, you're okay. Then, so if you want to specify an order, you can specify here. We saw this already. Specifying the order. Specifying just columns, like requires the use of select keyword. Returns a list of object arrays. Right? Let's see. So here, I just need account ID and balance. Okay, I don't need anything else. Then the limitation with Hibernate, or that is what I call, is getinfo.list is not going to give you account objects anymore. It's going to give you a object array. You see what I'm saying? Um, Ideally, all this while when you said from account, it was getting you entire account object, and your list is a list of account objects, right? But if you specify
Yeah.
only one or two attributes within that, then it is object array. Like this list is a list of object arrays, and from that you can specify account ID, balance, and everything. Okay, so that's the problem. But this can be again replaced by Pojo if you want. Like you can just say account summary DTO.
Prediction.
Yeah, account summary DTO, and create a constructor by passing an account ID and balance. You can get a account summary DTO, or you can create an account object itself. Select new account of account ID balance. You should have that overloaded constructor. Then you will get an account object itself. Making sense what I'm talking about?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So if you have an account.java with a constructor that takes in account ID and a balance, if you pass these two parameters, um, if it can construct an account object, then getinfo.list can be giving you an account object, but only these two properties specified.
Yeah.
Then the query will be select new fully qualified name of the account object of account ID comma balance. Making sense? So that means on the fly it is constructing an account object with just account ID and balance. If you don't want to get object array, if you get an object array, it sounds to me like again result set kind of stuff, right? You're also doing again for each row you're getting 0 and 1 and all that. If you don't want to do this iteration, that's the workaround I'm talking about, where you can say like select new of account ID, new account of that account object you're going to give fully qualified name, account ID, and balance. For it to happen, for it to construct an account object, you need to have a parameterized constructor or overloaded constructor in account.java, which can take in an account ID and a balance as parameters and can construct a account Java object. Making sense?
It is SQL query, right? We can
Yeah,
specify
but
new.
you're passing it to Hibernate. Like this is a create query, right? It doesn't matter how you do it here. It is going to construct a query interface of type Hibernate, and when you do dot list, it's going to internally honor that. It can understand. Here, this is not an SQL. It is an HQL query.
Okay.
This is an HQL query, not SQL. There is no uppercase account like this. This is a Java object. All this while, the queries that we are
Yeah.
writing are all on Java objects. If you look at our
Okay.
account table here, It has account underscore ID, but we said account ID because account ID is mapped to
Common.
account underscore ID, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Making sense so far?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can use some of these functions as well, uppercase, lowercase, and all that. Okay. So if you want to fetch, however you want to fetch the data. Performing joins. How to do joins? Like implicit association joins, ordinary joins in the from class, fetch join in the from class, or theta style join in the where class. Let's see what are all these. Okay. This is very important. I'm not sure. Are you guys up for learning joins right now, or do you want a break on this? I can start next week also if you want. I didn't want to overwhelm you guys with a bunch of stuff. Are you guys clear so far? Like it's a logical stop if we want to stop. If you want to continue, I can continue. Are you guys okay so far?
Up to now it is clear.
Right, until now it is clear.
Yes.
Do you want to start joins now or next week? So next week we
Next
can
week.
complete Hibernate actually. So we can complete both. Pretty quickly we'll complete it and we can wrap that up. Okay. I think it's a logical stop. If you guys don't want to get too overwhelmed, I can stop it right here and we can talk about joins in the next session. It'll be pretty quick. Yeah.
We want to have next week.
Yeah,
Say it
Ravi,
again.
we can stop.
What is it?
We
We'll
can do
have
next
next
week.
week.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I thought so as well because it's a I don't want to overwhelm you guys with more stuff, but you guys keep on practicing. Otherwise,